Hello and welcome to everyone who is watching. I'm Aditi Tibrewal, a final year entrepreneurship student at Ashoka University. In today's episode of Guftagu with Shark Tank India entrepreneurs, we have with us Anish Basu Roy, who is the co-founder of TagZ Foods and also one of the star participants of Shark Tank India Season 1 who managed to get Ashneer Grover on board. So, without a further ado, let's hear it from the man himself. I welcome you, Anish.
Thank you so much, Aditi. Absolutely a pleasure to be speaking to you.
For anyone who might not know, could you tell us in brief what TagZ Food does?
So I'll kind of explain this in two parts. The initial part would be a little boring. The latter part would possibly be a lot more interesting and relatable. So as a brand, what we clearly do is craft a lot of innovative snacking experiences. For urban consumers. It's a brand which is very urban, Gen Z in terms of its brand positioning. But then, most importantly, the products that we do are extremely taste first and happen to be better for you as well. How we do this is basically by using a lot of cutting edge food technology. But in short, if I were to just try and break this down into a mathematical formula, it'll possibly sound something like this. If Lay's and Haldiram is equal to mass cinema or single screen, and all the other healthy snacking brands is equal to stage theater, then TagZ is equal to OTT of the snacking space.
Oh wow, but why the name?
The name is actually inspired from the word hashtag. The research basically led us to understand that the hashtag is the most prominent and recognizable internet lexicon for Gen Z folks like you. For millennials like me, it is the thumb sign of the Facebook likes. Obviously, we were building a brand with a very Gen Z personality, and it only made sense to come up with a name which was derived from something which was so relatable. So that's why it's inspired from the word hashtag. Of course, there's a Z at the end of it because it's Gen Z, right? Also, it's kind of a matter of expression, right? I think we attach a hashtag in front of everything whenever we want to kind of emphasize something or express something boldly, which is kind of reflective in the brand's personality as well.
Yeah, that makes sense because I remember when I saw the chips for the first time, even I was like, oh, this seems like something that a Gen Z would want to consume. So I took it. So it did the job. Um, on that note, how did you approach your initial customers? What was that like?
Still remember almost this was March 2020 when we launched the brand, and the first 100 odd stores, um, a significant percentage of them I would have possibly spoken to the retailers myself, converted them myself. I'm sure if I go back to a few of those stores, some of them might still think I'm a delivery boy. But then, well, that's the interesting part of being able to build a business. You get to get your hands dirty, do a lot of things yourself, and learn things along the way. I think somewhere along the way, the consumers have been kind, partners have been extremely supportive. And most importantly, I think not only has everybody enjoyed the product, but I think everybody recognizes that it kind of plugs a gap which existed in the snacking experiences market for Indian consumers.
So, coming to your Shark Tank India episode, I absolutely love the pitch, especially because you came with the oil shots. So, that was really intriguing. But let's say you could go back in time and change your pitch. What would you change?
Nothing actually, nothing at all. And I think I don't know if you noticed, and I'm sure a lot of other people also did notice that possibly our pitch was very professionally done. It is just the way typically we would have a conversation with any institutional investor as well. Of course, you don't walk into a boardroom and do the oil shots piece. But then we are a bold brand. We like to be creative. We like to express ourselves, and no, I don't think we would have gone back and changed anything. So everybody had a different way of the way they wanted to pitch. I think the way we did it exactly is representative of who we are. Balanced, professional, um, but expressive and true to ourselves. I think that's what the brand is, and that's what, as people, we are.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, now coming to a question that I'm sure a lot of people might have asked you. But why did you choose Ashneer over Namita and Aman?
I'm going to be very honest. It was just the better deal by and large. Uh, See, at the end of the day, you really do not know what value who will bring onto the table, right? So you obviously do not end up basing your decision on an unknown variable. You go and make a decision on the basis of what is up in front of you. And Ashneer obviously had the better deal.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, what changed after Shark Tank India? Like, how was it after Shark Tank India? Did it
I
affect your
don't think
sales,
Shark Tank
etc.?
India hadn't happened, you and I wouldn't have been speaking today. And I think Shark Tank gave the brand a lot of visibility at a very, very early stage, which typically doesn't happen with young brands so early in the journey, right? Um, of course, thanks to the kind of product that we've had, and thanks to all the consumer love that we've received, last 18 months we've grown by 8 times, right? We've actually improved our gross margins by 21%. We've kind of improved on our EBITDA by almost 10x, right? um, all of this has happened to a very large extent because Shark Tank gave us that platform, which gave us massive consumer awareness. uh, on some of the largest quick commerce channels, we have a market share upwards of 5%. Now, for a young brand which is less than 3 years old, having a 5% market share on any platform means a lot, right? So, of course, a lot has changed, thanks to Shark Tank. And of course, as I always say, I think we are deeply humbled by all the consumer love that we've received. So,
So I remember in the episode you mentioned that now you're planning to add cookies and chocolates, and I was going through the website and they're there now. So what are your plans? What next for TagZ Foods?
I think we've got great products with us already, right? I think the last 9 months we've dedicated to accelerating our product development roadmap, and that's something that we've already done. Now, the task ahead of us very clearly is to make sure that our products are available in all kinds of relevant places for consumers to be able to buy them, right? I think that's the clear objective. You will definitely see more variants coming from us, right? In terms of possibly a few line extensions that we might do in the chocolate space, a few flavor extensions that we might do in the cookie space. I think the chips portfolio is fairly robust and fairly comprehensive. Dips as well is fairly comprehensive. I think what we're looking at doing is maybe a few line extensions here and there in chocolates and cookies, but then the biggest focus is basically on the operational part of it. So the focus is going to be a lot more on go to market, making sure that the product is available for our consumers to uh, get their hands on it.
So a lot of budding entrepreneurs will be watching you right now. So let's say you have to answer that what are your three biggest learnings or three biggest mistakes that you would have wanted to avoid? What would that answer be?
Oh, good lord. Very, very difficult. It's like asking somebody what's your favorite movie, right? It's very difficult to pick a favorite movie because everybody has like dozens and dozens of favorite movies, right? I think as an entrepreneur, you end up making so many mistakes. This is my second venture. I've been an entrepreneur 10 years. I can't even count the number of mistakes that I've done along the way, right? But a few simple messages that I will possibly want to leave for people, and I'm nobody to give advice, honestly, because I think, in my view, everybody really learns from their own experiences. Very rarely do people actually learn from somebody else's. The only message that I would possibly, leave with people who still haven't started up, are looking to start up, want to run their own business, is that whenever you do decide, right, to do your own business, do it for the right reasons. I think that is something which is extremely important. Don't do it just because आपके चाचा के भतीजे के भांजे के भाई का स्टार्टअप बहुत अच्छा चल रहा है, right? And don't do it because you read about the 1016th guy in the newspaper who's raised money now at a astronomical valuation. Don't do it because you heard a lot of success stories of people cashing in on their ESOPs and buying a fancy car. I think do it if you are truly passionate about the problem that you're going to be solving for, because all the other reasons are possibly vanity metrics in my view, right? Eventually, if um you want to do well while building your business, I think doing it for the right reasons is extremely important. And in my mind, the only right reason is your passion for solving a particular problem. Everything else is vanity.
So is there a reason that you feel deeply passionate about it? Like, what's your story?
So to be very honest, I don't really have a passion story, so to say. Got into this business purely because of very very research driven imperatives. I saw a gap in the market and it made sense for us to address that gap and build a business around it. But my primary passion was essentially to come back to the consumer brand space. And on the personal front, possibly, or what I am motivated by is the opportunity of being able to build 1,000 crore brand in a less than 5 to 6 years, from launch. So I think doing a consumer brand involves a lot of creativity, uh, involves a lot of not just creativity. It involves a lot of detail. It requires a lot of discipline. It requires possibly drilling down into uh, a bunch of things. But it's a very very exciting line of business to be in. To be able to build a consumer brand. So.
Okay, so now this is my favorite question. But what is one question that you want me to ask you?
Wow, you put me in a spot. Clearly, you have rehearsed better than I have, for this interaction. So, one question that you would want me to ask, I think, why don't you actually ask me about all the other people uh, who are involved in making tags, whatever it is today, uh, right? And uh, how valuable their role has been.
Okay, so first I would like to know how you met your co-founder Sagar, and then I would love to know about everybody in the team who has contributed to bringing TagZ Food where it is right now.
So I, while I was, on a break after my previous venture, I was consulting with, a company called Healthify Me for a brief period of time, and Sagar was already working there, and I think that is where, we ended up working closely. And I think right from day one, we always enjoyed working together a lot. Um so yeah, that's how we met. Uh, all the other people in the team as well are people who worked with me either in my previous venture or have known me closely during the past 10 years that I've been an entrepreneur. Still a very, very small team, a very closely knit team of about 25, 26 people. Um, and while, of course, I have to do a lot of the front facing, but I strongly believe that we are where we are thanks to all the efforts that the team has put together, right? We've built extremely capital efficient business. We've gotten to this stage without necessarily investing a lot of equity capital. I think we've made a name for ourselves as a fairly strong emerging brand, and that's been the dent in the universe that we've been able to do. But I think this is all thanks to the efforts of people who are running this engine day in day out. Our partners, so to say the least, our manufacturing partners, our distributors, right? These are people who possibly decided to partner with us when we had nothing, right? And they still continue to stay deeply engaged with us, right? Investors do play a role as well, right? And I hate talking about capital raising. I hate talking about valuations. I'm possibly a lot more focused on value creation. But I feel, thankfully, we've also had investors along the way who are people who believe in fighting it out in the trenches alongside you, right? Um so a lot of times people actually ask me, "Don't you have an anxious night? Don't you have sleepless nights?" I said, "No, I sleep very peacefully," and the simple reason for that is, the kind of team that I have, which has my back. I think the kind of partners that we have, who have our back, and I think, of course, investors that we have are also partners, in that sense. All of that gives us that tremendous confidence. That it'll all work out. And of course, needless to say, consumers. I think, our consumers have been very kind to us. Uh, Normally, the Indian consumer is a very discerning and a very value conscious consumer, but I don't know why, and I can only thank them for it. I think they've been extremely kind.
Okay, so now we have a very quick rapid fire round. I'll give you a prompt and you have to answer in one word or one sentence. Okay, so describe entrepreneurship in one word.
Boxing match.
One advice to budding entrepreneurs.
I don't give up.
How do you deal with failures?
Education.
What keeps you going?
Consumer love.
And one book that you would recommend every entrepreneur to read.
Honestly, I don't read too many books. I'm more into journals. A lot more into documentaries. But one book which, amongst various other books that I've really enjoyed, is Shoe Dog. Phil Knight. A very very real story, relatable.
Thank you so much, Anish, for doing this. It was really fun and insightful. And to everyone who is watching, here's a tip for you. Don't forget to try out chips, chocolates, and cookies from TagZ Foods because I personally love them. And stay tuned for more fun episodes coming your way.